You ever land a trick, first thing you get to the park and it felt way harder than it should have? Most of the time we mistake that by thinking it's a skill problem, but it's really just the fact that you're forcing the session. So it's happened many times where I get to the park, I get excited to skate, and I try something that's a bit more for the middle or the end of the session. And so today I want to talk about how you can use your warm-up to go from a forced state to a fluid state. Many skaters just do a warm-up because that's something we've culturally accepted, but it should have a bit more intention and help us figure out how we're going to skate that day. To clarify what I mean by forced, it's really just if you do certain tricks and they feel like it took a bit more effort than they needed to, you feel stiff, tense, or maybe your attempts are getting you a bit frustrated because they aren't feeling the way you believe they should. And so really all we're doing there is expecting ourselves to perform at a level that we haven't prepared ourselves for. And so an idea of what fluid feels like is when you're moving and you can regulate your breath and you feel a bit more connected to your board. If you feel like your board control is in a good state with your current approach, which is your speed, your choice of obstacles, and your flow to the skate park, but if it's the other way around where you get to the park and things are feeling a bit more disconnected, then you might want to take that as a sign to take a step back and slow things down. Maybe it's reducing the speed, skating a smaller obstacle, or trying to reduce the technicality of your tricks. In other words, if you're trying something like a kickflip crook, you might just want to try a crook. If you want to try a crook, but that's very difficult or it feels like you're forcing it, do some backside 50-50s. And so the purpose of the warm-up is to prepare you and transition you from a more tense state to a skate session that's a bit more relaxed and you can absorb the skating, the learning, or the progress that you're gonna experience. And so what you can do is ask yourself, what's the purpose of the session? Are you skating a skate park, a specific ledge, a street spot, or a set of stairs that is a bit more challenging? It's also possible it might just be a maintenance session or one where you're learning something. And that's why there's no such thing as the perfect warm-up. It should be adaptable to what you're skating that day or for that session. So if I'm skating a street spot, a street set, chances are I'm not gonna go straight for hard tricks unless, obviously some circumstances require that, but I wanna get a feel for it. I wanna understand how the board, my body, and the spot is going to work together. In other words, your setup, your state, and the environment is something you need to place into the context. And so in this case, the warm-up has to be adapted so that you're preparing yourself to skate a street set. When you're at a skate park, the warm-up is a bit more of an explorative approach where you can hit different obstacles and or you have so much more space, so much more time. So adapting the warm-up to a skate park looks so much more different than it does to a specific street spot. Again, even within different street spots like a rail, stair set, small or big. And so because the context changes, you need to make sure you're adapting yourself and slowly integrating what you're actually going to skate. And there's no need to rush yourself into the specific obstacle or the specific trick just because you know that's going to be a big chunk of your skate session. And have the focus be to feel a bit more connected to your board and the place you're skating. And so in the situation where you're doing more of a maintenance or cruising session where you're incorporating different obstacles and exploring different stances, the intention isn't necessarily to progress, it's more of feeling connected to your board. And that's another really great way to go from a more forceful state to a fluid state where you can explore, be creative, and have a great time on your board. And overall, find yourself in a more productive, a more efficient session. Easy one day might not be easy the next. And so some days you can get to the park and do certain tricks, but easy is dependent on how you're feeling that moment. So if you land that trick and it's feeling very fluid, a bit more effortless, then it's easy. You can possibly do it for warm-up. And so many times I get to the park very excited to land certain tricks. Most of the time they're tricks that I land in the middle or the end of the session, but regardless, it doesn't mean that it's a warm-up trick, or it doesn't mean that I should be forcing myself to land that trick because that's where I want to be. Do what that day presents as an easy trick. Instead of thinking I could do kickflip nose mani first go, warming up, maybe it's time to take a step back and do kickflip on the boxes and just nose mani without putting them together. Easy is contextual to how you're feeling that moment. And so another example is this kickflip. Many times I do it and it's very reactive and feels so much more effortless. Other times I force it, get straight into it, and it doesn't feel as easy or as effortless as I imagine it to be. And so it's important, instead of continuously forcing it, making yourself more tense, getting more stiff, you want to take a step back and maybe just do some ollies right off the launch, or play around with other parts of the skate park. Some warm-ups take 5 minutes, others take the whole session. Regardless of which it is, you want to make sure you're not ignoring the fact that you want to go into a flow state and instead forcing your way through that session where it feels like everything takes so much more effort and it's not as efficient as it could be. When things are going slow or not going your way, you want to take that as a sign to reel it back and slow down. Choose a smaller obstacle, go at slower speeds, or just lower the technicality of your bag of tricks. Where skateboarding doesn't become so much of a chore, so much of a battle every time, one of the last things you want to do is try to force your trick into the warm-up phase because you want to get to it. It's much better to not do that trick at all as opposed to trying to force it into the warm-up session. Another way to look at warming up is discovering the process and the skater you are in that session. Whether you're ready for a technical trick or you're only allowed to have more of a maintenance and a cruising session, both of them are going to help you fine-tune your ability and allow you to progress as the skateboarder you are, as opposed to having you hit these walls where you're battling much more than you need to. Of course, there's a time and place for battles in skateboarding, but that's not the habit you want to build if you want to make progression something that works for you as opposed to something that you're always fighting against. So instead of looking at a warm-up as a means to get to specific tricks, you want to look at it as something that allows you to discover what kind of skater you are in that session. So if that means getting to your hardest tricks, then that's great. But if it means having more of a maintenance or a cruising session, just as great. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. So I'm rushing that. Let's do some fakey flips on flat. Okay. Okay, that one felt good. That one felt really good. Oh. So what I did there was take a step back, literally gave myself more space to roll up and be set up further back than I was when I was trying to rush myself into the setup as I transitioned from flat to the launch. That was an accident. If you're someone who wants to dive deeper into this topic or similar conversations, you might be interested in checking out the memberships where we can really have time to focus into these topics. If you're someone who wants to talk about how to make skating a bit more efficient, you might want to look into getting a call or a lesson that we can do here at a park. You can do that by sending me a message on YouTube, through Instagram at profe.carloss, or on WhatsApp, which is 323-517-6539. Hope to see you guys in the next videos, lives, or somewhere in here. Peace out.